I'll start with Sue Phillips, actually, and allow Kevin a bit of time to get Sue, not Vanessa Penny. Sue, introduce yourself and what's on the table.
So I'm Sue Phillips, one of the officers for the definitive map team, sitting in for Vanessa Penny, the manager. She can't be here, so I'm just here to relay the information she would be imparting.
Right, Nikki.
Oh, I'm Nikki Harper. I have been a LAF member for a few years, and I volunteer for the Open Space Society. And my background is really green spaces, both rural and urban. That sort of cover it.
Paul?
I'm Paul Tomlinson. I have been a member of the forum for a terribly long time. And as I do have very dodgy hearing, I have Mirella here, who is providing me with a live transcript. What's going on?
Good morning. My name's Chris Farr, and I'm the Rural Advisor for the Country Land and Business Association, but specifically for the South West team based out of Chippenham. I've also got an additional role as the policy lead for Dorset, and also born and bred in the Purbeck, and have walks, ridden, whatever else, a whole variety of the rights of way throughout the county.
Hello, everyone. I'm Philip Hackett. I work for the British Horse Society, and I've chaired the LAF for the last, 3 years? Thereabouts.
I'm Philip Colfax rather than Colfax, which it says on the menu. And I'm from Simmons. I'm a landowner. I haven't met my colleague at CLA. I haven't met him before. Don't know why not. And from Simmonsbury near Bridport. I'm a new boy. And I'm a great believer in people getting involved with the countryside.
I'm Graham Stanley with Dorset Council, Senior Ranger for the north of Dorset and for the Purbeck area, and do my best to coordinate LAF activities.
I'm Councillor Brenton. I'm a Dorset councillor of Litchett and Upton, which is the edge of Poole Harbour, so I tend to get involved with that sort of thing. I'm also on the farms panel and various planning committees, and I've been around for a while.
I'm Chris Slade. I came to the very first meeting of the LAF, and I've been to nearly all of them ever since. First of all, as Vanessa Penny's predecessor, and since then as a member.
I'm Rebecca Watkins, not born, and Anna's born on the agenda. And I'm from Modus Transport Group, and it's my first time she's sitting on the LAF.
I'm a member of Loders Parish Council. I'm a off-road motorist and interested in field sports, all aspects of countryside use, and this is my first time here.
Kevin Marshall, also a new boy. I also am a youth of rights of way with a motorised vehicle, but I also do a lot of walking and get all over Dorset. I'm also the chairman of the Dorset branch of the TRF, which is a national organisation for motorised users. And I love everybody.
And from outside the room, my vice chair, Janet.
Hello, I'm Janet Davis. I'm vice chair, as Phil says. I've been on the LAF for, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, I think now. And my primary interest is in walking. I'm active in the Ramblers, who I actually worked for many years. So that's me. Thank you.
And Philip.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Philip Elias, otherwise known as Pip, and I'm the Senior Public Rights of Way Officer for BCP Council.
And finally, is it Chloe? Claire, sorry.
Hi, I'm Claire Edwards. I'm taking the notes today.
Good morning and thank you, Claire. Right. We have no public questions, I'm aware. So straight on to the minutes of the last meeting and actions, matters arising not covered elsewhere. Item first one, A35 Bridleway, Organford, especially to do with road severance along A35 and A31. Graham, an update from you.
So we've done a little bit of investigation work into old documents. Paul was kind enough to forward me some information that he had filed away because I couldn't find anything in the handover files. So it's kind of a work in progress, working our way through this and progressing it. But if we wanted to wait until item 14, I think it is. No, yes, item 14, and then we can perhaps discuss that a little bit more. What is the best way forward?
Okay, that's fine. Vinegar Quarry, again, Graham.
Yeah, I've been chasing up the minerals and waste team, and unfortunately have drawn a blank so far. Before or after the last meeting, Nikki, when you and I went out there? So I've got it was after, wasn't it? Yeah. So Nikki and I have had a site visit, so I kind of better understand the issues as they are on the ground, and it's just getting an answer from the minerals and waste team as to what they propose to do about the lack of follow-up, really. And that's perhaps something that Alex could perhaps help you with as well. So yeah, it's a work in progress again.
You've sent several emails now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Who have you been talking to?
Neil Dackham.
Talk to me later and we'll see if I can.
Thank you very much.
Put a bit of pressure on.
Okay.
What pressure is needed.
On to the North Dorset Trailway, and I was delighted to see so many of us at Shillingston Station last month. Really good fact-finding team building event. Do we have any feedback on it, Graham?
No, I think everybody got a lot out of it. It was, again, like you say, it was just nice to meet members prior to this meeting, I suppose. In terms of progress with Railway, Dorset Council, conversations about progressing south. There's a couple of members in staff of Dorset Council have been kind of tasked with figuring out exactly what Dorset Council's positions should be. And they're kind of doing that fact-finding stuff really over the next month or so. So certainly by the next meeting, we should know whether Dorset Council says yes or no to what they want to do.
Next item is the Loaders to Bridport route. Any updates?
For me, so we're still continuing to campaign for that. We have written to the parish council asking for an update. The parish council are currently looking at a non-road route parallel to the road. We've written to the parish council saying that we have concerns about the safety issue and that it only covers part of the route and not the full route. And we're concerned that it's not fully accessible, so for wheelchairs and mobility scooters. We've shared a state of play document about the route. We've subsequently written to Councillor Ireland with the state of play document outlining the history of the campaign and all the involvement to date from various groups, and how the route, our non-road route following the old railway line, aligns with Dorset's LTP4. We had a reply via Russell Goff, replying on Councillor Ireland's behalf, explaining that there was going to be a full briefing meeting scheduled for the 13th, bringing together Dorset Council internal stakeholders to review the project, and that our document would be submitted to form part of the briefing. And we're waiting for feedback on that meeting. And we're just continuing to hold awareness raising events within the community to raise awareness about the benefits of the non-road.
Brilliant. Okay.
Could you also bear in mind the the missing link from Tollerfapton to Maiden Newton. That would make like a complete link up. That could be included.
Yeah, we're very much aware of that as a separate link. We are focusing on the Loders to Bradpole section because the other link caused some contentious issues within the village. So our focus has just been on that section. We know that there's other work going on with separately, but we're not involved in that, and our focus is just on that.
If you need to put back onto the agenda, please let me know. Keep us regularly updated. Okay. The Wessex Ridgeway.
Hand up in the air.
Sorry, hand up.
It was me,
Yep.
Bill. I just wanted to ask whether that meeting that was just mentioned, whether we should, has it taken place yet? The meeting about the Loders to Bridport Path.
There was there was a meeting scheduled for the 13th. We weren't included in that. That was an internal council and an internal Dorset Council meeting is my understanding. We weren't invited to that, so we haven't had any feedback about that as yet.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Right, the Wessex Ridgeway. We were due to have a meeting which got postponed, cancelled, and not been satisfactorily scheduled. There has been a tentative date, but I can't meet.
I
can't meet that date. So I haven't seen anything from Tom rescheduling it or anything like that.
Was on for the 5th of May. Is that the one you can't make?
That's the 5th of May, yes. Yeah.
I can contact them and say.
Right. I have sent a message, but nothing's come back to me. Okay. And there was a definitive statement query, which Sue, have you got an
I think
update
it was
on?
in relation to when works are undertaken, maybe through parish projects and things, and what information can go onto the statements, which can't just be done. They have to go through the modification process. So that we can record the information somewhere is good, but we can't just relay it onto the statement without some sort of legal event taking place.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess that specifically relates to when we change styles to gates, doesn't it? Really, you can't just magically put them on there, but we do record them all on our system, so we know where they all are. But yeah, it just can't go onto a legal record without an enormous amount of work.
Paul.
But linked to this, I have a recollection. Several years ago now, we were told that the government were encouraging councils to make definitive map statements available over the internet. Would obviously make life much easier for people like Janet wanting to investigate cases. And has anything ever happened on that, to your knowledge?
Within Dorset, that isn't available yet. We are working with our GIS team, our data team, who oversee us and work with us with the mapping side, because it would be helpful. It's available if people ask that for those details on specific routes, but it's a work in progress. Imminently.
This decade or this century or
With the definitive map, it could be. Let's not get too excited, but we are currently having conversations about trying to make it available for our Dorset Explorer system.
Okay. Note on public inquiries. Any updates on those? I know.
That might relate to a particular case where we have I apologise, I don't remember the detail, but we do have a public inquiry pending, date in August. The exact one I don't recall. So yes, I don't know if it was a general query, but if it related to a particular public inquiry, which we've now had a date for, which we believe will go ahead.
Right,
But the exact date, I don't have.
okay. That's sufficient. Okay, thank you. And then the last item, format of Dorset Council consultations. Alex. Your initials by it.
We spoke last time and you were going to follow up on the poor quality of some of the consultations that go out where you can't actually answer the questions as they are
The
posed.
consultations you can't answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can answer as an individual, but if you try and answer as a group, it all goes phooey. Well, we have had a discussion about consultations on other items, not just footpath type stuff. To which we were told, oh, we're looking at it and we'll make it easier because the chap is Ben Wilson. It's linked in officially, whether this will ever happen, I don't know, with, what's it called? Our future council, OFC, because we're altering a lot of our IT system because we're going to a, whatever we've got now, it's got initials and I'm not very good on initials, but we're going to a new sort of internet, not provider exactly, but a system. So everything will go onto that, which is supposed to be so much more customer friendly. But of course, everything like that, writing consultations is basically, they follow the old pattern until the new pattern's embedded. So yes, it has been raised, not just about this, it was about the Dorset plan. But the answer is, well, it'll all be wonderful when we get our future council.
So organisations will be able to respond and also put in
That is what I
input.
asked for. I won't say you'll get it because we have to wait until the people have written the software.
Okay, right. Well,
But it has been requested.
we'll have a watching brief on that and
And
if we need to,
I raised the same issues as well.
Mm.
So we kind of come at it from two different directions. So hopefully it'll have some impact. But you know, as soon as you start to crack these eggs, it all gets a little bit messy.
The council have nearly all, what's the word, asked for this alteration because most of us are double-hatted. So when it comes to a local plan or a consultation, you answer as a personal, and then you answer as your parish council or as your whichever group you're answering for. And it is very difficult to be sure that it was accepted.
okay.
So yes, I will flag that up. Just keep nagging.
Philip.
I don't think it's the right moment, but I tried to find this rights of way consultation that's being done at the moment on, is it the improvement plan or the management plan? I couldn't even find it.
No, I'll come on to that in a minute.
Okay, all right then. Okay.
Right, so that's dealt with the actions from the last meeting.
Sorry,
Yes, sorry,
back on, so the North Dorset Trailway feedback, so I meant to allude to that. I know that North Dorset Trailway have been working with Dorset Council for years, attempting to extend the trailway and link the existing sections. I appreciate that the council officers have to apportion their resources appropriately, but it might be perceived that addressing the long-standing issues involved in extending the trailway for the benefit of all users has been further delayed. Is there a way that there can be assurance that the work will continue to seek the resolutions for the existing issues for the North Dorset Trailway in parallel to the extension of the potential extension of the railway?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we are always working towards getting more of it done. I have got a bit of a general North Dorset Trailway update for item 6. But yeah, it is at the forefront of our minds. It's just time and resources, but you know, it's great having the North Dorset Trailway group to help us along and keep their foot on my throat, as it were.
Right, So we move to item 4. Legal record team. Definitive mapping statement. We haven't got Vanessa here today. Delighted to welcome you, Sue. But if you'd like to do your presentation.
So yeah, apologies from Vanessa who's leave this week, so she can't be here. But she's prepared information for me to share to update the definitive map team. On a team front, we've had a slight change. We have Andy, one of our longest serving officers, has left, joined another authority, and in his place, we've recently recruited Rachel. She actually currently works within our team on our sort of administration side of things, so she's stepping into the role of an officer, and is due to start imminently. That will leave us with that post vacant, and we're in the throes of trying to see if that can be recruited to. So that's a slight change for the team. Since the last meeting, we've had 2 definitive map modification orders have been confirmed. So we've now got confirmation of a footpath in Bradford Abbas and a restricted byway showing in Bingham as well. Bingham and Weymouth, it crosses the parishes. We've got 6 confirmed public path orders as well in Stonestone Newton, Weymouth, Bridport, Ewan Courtney, Shaftesbury, and Buckhorn Weston. So we've got some progress with our orders for the definitive map. There's also been a review and an increase in the administration charges for public path orders. The authority doesn't and cannot charge for modification orders, but public path orders attracts a charge which take effect or have taken effect since the 1st of April for new applications. So the basic cost for the applications made under the Highways Act, which affects sections 26, the 118s, 118As, 118Bs, 119s, 119As and 119Bs, excluding advertising costs. So the application processing charge for a PPO is now £5,250. It sits within a range of charges for other authorities, not as much as some, more than others. And that's where the order is actually made. Additional paths can be considered at the same time, and there'd be a charge for additional orders of £2,600 per path. And then that's the Highways Act PPOs, and then the applications made under the Town and Country Planning Act 1990, again excluding advertising costs, as they get recharged to the applicants anyway. So the standard charge now for Town and Country Planning Act public path order is £5,750. An additional path which would be considered at the same time would attract a charge of £2,500 per path. So that's for the basic applications, which affect one path, and there'll be an annual review to be increased by £250 per annum on the 1st of April each year. And then the charge for each additional or adjacent path would increase by £100 in that same year as well. And then a full review of the charging structure is going to be undertaken again in 2030. And there hadn't been a review of charges for quite some time, so there's been a sense of a bit of an uplift as a reflection of there not having been a review for quite some time there. And so, regards to the definitive map modification orders, the current situation is not a great deal of movement. We've currently got 258 modification orders that haven't been started. That includes 231 from the British Horse Society. So in real terms, we've got 27 on the active waiting list, as we have a slightly different priority status with some of those that come through from the majority that come through from the British Horse Society. We've got 43 cases in progress, 2 cases that are with the planning inspectorate at the moment. Oh, here we are, to answer the question from earlier. The Mill Lane case for Chiddock, going to public inquiry on the 11th of August. There we go, had the right month, couldn't think of the date.
Thank you.
Okay, the inquiry is going to be held in County Hall. We've managed to locate it here because it's impractical for Chiddock. There isn't a venue that can accommodate all the necessities in that village. A further case is with planning inspectorate. There's a footpath in Weston, which is Portland, waiting for them to pick up and progress. There are 31 of the cases which are in progress are in a queue waiting to be submitted to PINS, and 13 of these are with our legal services. So we are inching through and to move those along. And then in respect of the public path orders, there's 34 cases in progress, which includes 17 town and country planning applications, 1 rail crossing and 1 special order. 7 of these have been made and are waiting works before they can be confirmed, and 8 of the Town and Country Planning Act confirmed orders are awaiting works before they can come into operation. So they're sort of as far along as they can be. And then there are 9 cases waiting to be started for the PPOs. There are also cases for PPOs waiting to go to the planning inspectorate. One of which is Bridleway in Beaminster at Chantry Farm, and a footpath, and again same area, so it's again Chantry Farm in Beaminster, and these are going to be dealt with through written representations with the planning inspectorate, so no public inquiries for that one. There are no outstanding PPO applications waiting submission to PINS. And that is where we are with the map team. So if there are any questions, I will try and answer them.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive.
I think Chris could give you quite a long list of cases where the path on the ground and what's on the definitive map do not agree with each other. Therefore, in principle, a publicly spirited servant like Chris should be putting in a whole raft of PPO applications. Yeah, the definitive map brought into line with reality. Would that be chargeable?
Public path orders will attract, yes, a charge for each application.
I don't know if you have a view on the subject, but fundamentally, it is your job to maintain a public definitive map that reflects what's there, and therefore, we ought to be welcoming correction applications.
Well, in the case of Maiden Newton, the HR should be showing this later. The 30 years ago, the rights of way team created new paths, effectively bypassing parts of the definitive path, and which are still in use. So we then got extra paths which need to be added to the definitive map, and I should be consulting in a minute to practically go through the process.
Absolutely. And so if there is evidence of use of a route which isn't recorded on the definitive map, then that's welcome modification order applications with all the evidence that would support that claim. Would be great. With public path orders, if a route that's legally recorded needs to be altered in some way, then again a necessary public path order application can be made as well. It isn't possible. There may be an available walked route, but we can't effectively just draw a line on the map. We have to go through that legal process for any alterations or recording of those rights that may have public access, where public rights exist. We would need the applications and the evidence to support them.
That's a DMMO rather than a. Yeah,
If it's if there is a route being walked, which is
different to what's shown.
yeah, then and it's distinctly different as opposed to it's just because people start walking it.
Yeah.
Perhaps that they may have been bypassing something because it's become unavailable. We just don't know. But if there is a belief that a route is being walked where public rights or being used on whatever status public rights exist, then yes, it'd be a DMMO application for that one.
Yes, please.
It seems to me, from experience and also from what I've just heard, there's quite a long backlog of all these orders and stuff. And also the fees, to my mind, are really quite expensive. You know, someone that's got like to put in a few of these applications. Is there a relationship? Is the money ring fenced for actually doing the work? I mean, is there a way of speeding up the work by accessing all this income stream? And if you did more work, would you have more income stream so that you could do yet more work? How does that all work?
So with the definitive map modification orders, if it's about upgrading or recording existing rights that don't currently show on definitive map, there isn't a charge for that process. With public path orders, there's a comprehensive breakdown as to how those charges or those fees have come about. It doesn't. One of the factors is the time it takes, the natural legal processes, and with modification orders, the nature of them very contentious often between one party or the other. So that's why we end up with a significant stagnation almost in terms of progressing those orders. With public path orders, there's still a set legal process to go through, and those charges that are in place are reflective of the amount of work involved to progress the often a diversion that's needed or wanted.
And yeah, that
So I think really the charge that is made is basically just covering of costs. There's no actual profit made out of them by our teams. We're not even legally allowed to make money from them. You're right, it is a lot, but that's how much it costs, unfortunately. The advertising, which is legally required, I believe the papers change how they charge us and do it by the letter, because they know that these adverts require a certain amount of wording within them to be legally and factually correct. So, and we have no option other than to pay that. But because it's for the benefit of a landowner moving these paths most of the time, it's only right that these charges are passed on to that landowner. And unfortunately, it is what it is.
Excuse my ignorance, but if pins are involved, do you have to pay the inspectorate as well?
There's no, there isn't. They deal with their own, so they effectively take up the case once it's with them. So it goes, they become, so we're the order making authority, and then the inspector, then they have their own systems. Yeah.
And do they charge?
Not at that stage. So it's about making the order. So if say Dorset Council has made that order to which there are objections, which then require it to go to the planning inspectorate, there aren't further charges in relation to that. If the planning inspectorate then confirm the order, the costs associated with that will come back to Dorset Council, to which then there is the advertising costs, as mentioned, because that is that's part of that legal process, which we don't cover the costs of on behalf of the PPO applicant.
You want to come back on something, I'll take you in, Alex.
Oh, thank you. The impression I've got from what you've said is that it's sort of bureaucratic inertia, or it's inertia of some form. I think I heard you say something about inertia. Is that really that some people are you know, if you wanted a speedy service, you could probably get it by pushing and
There is no way. As officers, we would love the system to move along because it doesn't. We don't enjoy having waiting lists. We don't enjoy things being delayed. It's the nature of process. So it has to be a public it's a public process, so we invite people to be part of the process. We have to do that legally, and at each stage there has to then be windows of time where people can respond to the advertising. So we are dictated to by a legal process, and things then become I've just used the word stagnated. They just become held up because it's a resourcing issue. We can't process the information more quickly because actually anything that needs to go to the planning inspectorate takes an enormous amount of input, from officer time to the legal team as well. And then when it reaches the planning inspectorate, they themselves run a waiting list because they can't manage the quantity of stuff that gets referred to them, because of following the statutory process that's in place, which guides us all. So
thanks.
Just, do you mind if I make?
Please.
It's the sclerotic nature of the process is something that I've seen on other access forums, and unfortunately is the same, I think, pretty much everywhere. The only question I'd ask is, has ever been any consideration to change the statutory process so that rights of way officers could actually determine the outcomes of changes rather than it going through to the planning authority?
they don't all need to go to the planning. We are required to submit to the planning inspectorate if there are objections which aren't withdrawn. So we can confirm orders, and we do. It's just
what sort of percentage do you think are you able to do, and what percentage goes to the local planning authority?
I wouldn't be able to put a figure on it in that terms, because every case could potentially attract an objection which would require some further input. The public health orders can go to committees, and so that can alter the course of events. Modification orders, they are a delegated decision. So if an order is recommended and made, and then we receive objections, we have no choice. It needs to go to the planning inspectorate if those aren't withdrawn. So yeah, what we are legally required to do, we do as much ourselves, but if it's where we get objections, especially the modification orders, it invites, we have to have the planning inspectorate involved.
Thank you very much.
Alex, I was going to bring in first, and then you.
Thank you. Coming back on what Chris has asked is, what percentage, I mean, how difficult, what would change the legislation? Because I'm assuming we're talking about legislation in the end. What legislation do you follow, and has that been changed in the last millennium? Because it sounds to me like we're working to things which might have been fine 50 years ago, but come on, you know, things have changed. So you could get footpaths, which are the walked route has been walked for 30 years quite happily, but nobody's ever got round to applying because A, the parish council can't afford it or thinks it can't. And, you know, that inertia, the turgidity of the system means that you think, why bother? So it was a sort of how old is this legislation, and is there room for, you know, asking our MPs or somebody to actually think about it? That's one question. And the other one is highways, and what's the word, influence of highways on rights of way. I'm looking here at Dorset Explorer, and we still have a bridle way that crosses straight across the A35, which doesn't exist. It hasn't existed ever since Upton Bypass was built. So how long does it take for and I know there's been a stopping up order. So how long does it take from when there was a stopping up order to it actually showing on Dorset Explorer? Because it's there, and some idiot might decide to duck across the A35 bypass, which is a bit dangerous. So that's another one. Bearing in mind that highways have done a stop order, when does it get to that? You know, there are signs up saying no footpath and all that business. When does it actually change the map? And the other one was, you said things go to committee. Which committee? It used to go to the Roads and Rights of Way Committee. It doesn't sort of exist very often now.
I'd love to be able to give you the exact answer. I know I should know. It's the committee. Its name changed with our latest.
I don't know the answers.
No.
I honestly thought it was still the Roads and Rights of Way Committee.
Exactly. Well, I have not seen a
Never been
Roads and Right of Way agenda or committee.
No.
It's not on the list of committees here.
No.
I know that if a bridle path, usually a bridle path, crosses from northern planning area to southern planning area, which can happen because they're trailways, then it goes to the overall, it's not statutory, can't remember what it's called, but it's the strategic planning committee.
Thank you, because that was the word I was about to say.
but-
My belief is it is a strategic planning committee.
Only as
When
when
they
I
meet, when
I checked the agenda, that's happened twice in 5 years. Seems to be an awful lot of.
They don't all have to go.
No, they don't all have to go. But if it's internal in the north or in the south and it doesn't cross that barrier, where does it go?
So within our definitive map team, with the orders, so if we look at public path orders, they do go to committee if there are sustained objections. But if there aren't, they don't need to go to committee. So they may not go to committee particularly often, even though committee meets regularly. The public path orders don't always get presented because they are progressing without that involvement. Definitive map modification orders rarely go to committee. It's only when there is an application which affects Dorset Council property. So that would involve the committee on those occasions. So we can recommend and confirm orders within Dorset Council. They don't go to committee, and they don't necessarily need to go to the planning inspector either. If they are confirmed, if the whole process can be followed within Dorset Council's legal powers, then they will be.
Okay, but therefore they are never seen by councillors.
No,
Well, back in the day when we had rights of way,
but all
and
councillors
roads
will be
committee,
updated.
we saw them regularly, and I just wonder the visibility of this, because I don't think that councillors on the whole understand how long the backlog is and how slow it's taking.
So within every order process, whether it be a public path order or a definitive map modification order, the councillors affected in that area will always be contacted at each stage of the statutory process as well. So there's an update, and if an objection comes through, then again all the affected parties or interested parties would be updated on that as well, including sort of area or ward councillors as well. So the information is sort of disseminated to parish councils as well, and lots of other organisations and individuals. So but yeah, so you're right, not every order will go to the committee because it doesn't need to.
I've got 3 speakers, Paul, Janet and Nikki. I'll take you in that order. Paul.
I have a recollection 5, 6 years back that we were told that the deregulation bill that Oliver Letwin was putting through Parliament in the coalition government had 1 or 2 clauses in it that were aimed at streamlining this process a bit. Did that actually come to fruition?
It keeps being delayed. They haven't brought it, they haven't enacted it yet. But because the principle is to try and do that, you are right. But it still hasn't come into force yet. So we are still working under the potential, but until it is actually enacted, we still have to work within the remit of the existing legislation that
2032.
Was it?
It was 2026. It's now 2032, unless parliamentary time is found. Yeah.
It has been delayed, hasn't it?
Historic footpath.
That's right. Yeah. Janet first, and then Nikki.
Oh, right. Two things. I'll do the second one I was going to mention first because it's already come up. Deregulation Act. Yes, there are provisions in it which will streamline the DMMO process and also introduce online advertising instead of newspaper advertising. So that's a bit of streamlining which will considerably reduce local authority costs when it comes to orders. The Department DEFRA is sitting on the provisions in the Deregulation Act which deal with public rights of way. And nobody knows why they're sitting on it. Ramblers, Open Space Society, British Horse Society, all the national rights of way organisations are lobbying really hard for it to be introduced as soon as possible. But the Deregulation Act was 2015, so 11 years ago now. And despite the fact they had a working group who were looking at this and assisting DEFRA in bringing this in, they are still sitting on it. We've had endless secretaries of state at DEFRA, changes of government, and they're still sitting on it. But please rest assured that the national organisations are all pushing them really hard. Philip mentions the cut-off date, which is slightly separate from this. The cut-off date for recording historic rights of way on the definitive map is to be repealed. It's already been repealed in Wales. The current government have promised that it will be repealed in England as well, but we wait to see it. So yes, there are changes afoot. The legislation has been looked at numerous times. It is getting quite old now, you're quite right. But nobody is going to agree to taking out the public's right to object to changes to the public rights of way network. And I don't think anybody would want to see that. And landowners wouldn't want to see their right to object to DMMOs disappearing. So there is a balance which the current legislation strikes. And sorry, I won't go on for all that much longer. When it comes to public path orders, for example, and any action for any kind of order, Dorset Council, along with most other councils, before they start the legislative side of this, the actual making of orders, there is extensive pre-order consultation with the user organisations. And very often this can mean that little things that might promote an objection at the formal stage get ironed out before the formal order gets made. Because parish councils get consulted, the user organisation get consulted, the local ward member gets consulted. So all of that happens before the legal side kicks in. And very often the little nuances, we prefer it would be much better if it avoided that muddy patch for the new route, can be ironed out. And so when it gets to the legal stage, you don't get objections. And wearing my Ramblers hat, we certainly don't object to all of them. So many of them can go through, as has been explained, be confirmed by the order making authority. Thank you. I won't say any more.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, because there's one bit you didn't answer. It was about the maps on Dorset Explorer, of which there's several different base maps, aren't there? But presumably the one that the public sees is the Ordnance Survey. So I guess that when you make changes, you let Ordnance Survey know, who then change the base maps, which would then be shown on Dorset Explorer. Is that a roundabout way of saying that?
So we do update Ordnance Survey. Dorset Explorer shows it's effectively the working copy of the definitive map. So changes, newly recorded routes that are showing on the definitive map will be reflected in Dorset Explorer. And those base maps are just there are three possible ones, and that's a preference really. So people can choose which version they are looking at as a base map, but the actual Dorset Council definitive map is
But
shown.
that's not the one that Joe Public are going to look at before they go for a walk, is it? It's effectively one of the other more usable maps?
So they ideally would use the Dorset Explorer layer, which is showing the current working. So you maybe like you go to a bookshop and you might buy yourself an Ordnance Survey paper map. The digital copy, which is the current one, as I say, which is as up to date as it can be, wouldn't necessarily reflect that paper one because the paper ones will come out of date relatively quickly. But if people are using the digital version on Dorset Explorer, irrespective of which base map they are selecting, those digital lines with the route references is the most up-to-date available routes. So ideally people would be possibly having a quick look if they want to on Dorset Explorer just to see where the routes are that they're thinking of using. And that should give them the current up-to-date information. So we would oversee that, and an Ordnance Survey, they update their systems based on the information that we do share once an order has been confirmed.
Yeah, the Ordnance, sorry, Philip, the Ordnance Survey reprint their maps every 8 to 10 years. But they do update their digital side every couple of 3 months when local authorities are sending theirs in. If I may just answer Alex's couple of other questions as well. The two bits of legislation that diversions come through is the Highways Act 1980 and the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. And I believe both of them will be fiddled about with the digital regulation to make life easier. Probably just the Highways Act. I don't know so much about the Town and Country one. But yeah, and then your other question about the Upton bypass and the bridleway, if Highways did apply for that stopping up order, it would have only been on the land that they were responsible for, which was the dual carriageway. They wouldn't have stopped it up left and right. That would be up to the landowner to apply for. So,
But it's still marked
yeah,
as going straight across.
yeah.
Once a highway, always a highway.
Well,
And then we've got.
I
to
mean,
do
I
road
guess we could
severance.
stop the green line left and right,
Mhm.
but strictly speaking, people should go across. That's a map of all of them, which we're coming on to in
Okay.
item 40.
Just, I look at it and I'm thinking,
It's
I know
ridiculous.
there's a sign
That's what it
there
is.
saying no crossing.
Yeah.
But it's still shown on the map,
Yeah, it's
To-
one of those projects that we need to come on to.
You know, we're looking at road severance or bridleway severance, whichever way you term it, because there's a need to cross these routes. Probably something historically where we didn't have a robust consultation process. And there's a chance that if work is done in the future, there may be a way of linking north to south. But you've got to look at each case on its own merits there. Kevin, you want to come in first?
Yeah, obviously it's my first meeting, so I don't know if I'm asking things out of order. If I am, please let me know. But a couple of questions. Firstly, a very personal one to me. When I drilled down through Dorset Explorer, some of the colours for the different sort of roads I'm interested in, I really can't see. Is there anything that can be done, or who makes a decision on what colours are used? Because colour blindness is a thing in males, especially. And a couple of the colours I really have trouble deciphering what it is. So that's really just a personal comment. I don't know if you can go in and you can change the colours. If there's a setting where, you know, I could go in or a user could go in and change the
It's a
colours.
really good question. I can't answer it, but
We
I
can ask the
think
GIS department to look at it, think about accessibility.
that's what
I'll
makes me
make
think
note,
it's a really
yeah.
good question, which I can't answer. But I'm definitely going to put it to our GIS team because they would oversee anything or those sorts of details and know what's possible in terms of, as Graham saying, the accessibility for individual users of the site. I think that's
Good. And the second question is, if Matt, TROs, what's the process for putting a TRO in, and are they ever reviewed, and are they used for the right reasons?
Graham, can I ask you to?
I do apologise. I was making some notes, so I didn't quite hear. I heard TROs.
TROs,
Yeah.
the continuing use of TROs to keep certain rights of way closed. Is that ever reviewed?
Yeah.
The reason why, you know, I think you and I have talked about it before, but the one I'm thinking of is the one, the little cluster over near Lye, They're a boat, and they've been closed for several years now.
Mm.
And it's always for 1 year, and it's to allow work to be carried out. But there's never work carried out. And like people in my organisation, and I know other users, it gets very frustrating. We want to be law abiding, etc., 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 and only go where we're allowed to go. But when you go there and yet another year's going by and it said this is closed for a year for work to be done, and there's no work to be
Never
done.
anything happens. I will take a look.
It just seems a very sort of carte blanche way of just shutting it up rather than consulting.
Not having to spend any money. Yeah, I must admit, I don't know the details, but I'll find out. Yeah.
Okay.
Those specific ones, if there are any.
Yeah, I'd just like to know if you know, do people get together and review it, you know, or like if this goes for 3 years, after 3 years, you can't use that excuse anymore. I mean,
You are right. We shouldn't do. To be fair, that isn't Sue's team that deals with those. That's us and traffic team. So we deal with 2 different lots. But I will find out.
Alex, did you want to come back in? I've got you on the list. I don't know if your question's been answered.
Well, I will go and do some homework and read the Deregulation Act, even though it's obviously in abeyance at the moment. And following up on Kevin's point, which is, Graham, I'm sure you've told me, but I didn't write it down. How many of these, should we say, bridle paths that are muddy quagmires can you tackle in a year?
Oh,
Look, I'm
well,
gonna
it
say,
depends how muddy.
if I say Peterman's Lane,
Funnily enough, I've just written that down because we wanted to speak to you about that.
I've been asked about it, actually it came up.
It all depends on what's required, what distances, time of year that we're trying to do it, you know.
All those things, yeah.
Yeah. Not very many with a budget, but you know.
1 or 2?
Probably in each area, yes. Yeah, to the 4 areas, yeah.
4 areas, maximum 8 a year.
Big jobs, yeah, without external funding, yeah.
Right.
That'll do for the moment.
Okay. Sue, thank you very much indeed. Very fulsome.
Sorry, Sue.
Baptism of fire.
Please, I can answer all the questions. Everybody
Well,
who's also
thank
put in
you.
as well, so thank you.
Item 5 is in abeyance because Joanna Lee isn't here for the WAG about England Woodland Creation offer. So we'll move on to item 6, Dorset Council Green Space Management and Maintenance. Russ isn't with us, so it's
So that's me.
it's down to you, Graham.
Okay, so just got something here from Russ to read out. Following the successful recruitment of a senior ranger for the central team in February of this year, an unforeseen change in personal circumstances and unfortunately resulted in her resignation.
Oh.
This has now left the team without a senior manager in that role. However, we have been granted approval to recruit to that vacant post. The recruitment process and the required notice period for the successful candidate means that it could be up to 6 months before that position is filled. In the interim, additional responsibilities of that role have been absorbed by the existing senior rangers, me and a couple of others, also with Russ acting as the senior ranger for that area. So as well as in the central area, he's obviously also the green space manager for the whole service. This represents a significant increase in the workload across the teams. Despite these pressures, the staff continue to prioritise the maintenance of our frontline services, which, as well as right of way, obviously include lots of sites that we manage, around about 40 odd, if not more, and obviously the highway verges and roundabouts as well. So during the current financial year, the service has secured significant further funding to deliver improvements to the King Charles III English Coast Path. These projects are due to commence in the coming months and will see substantial investment along the route from Lyme Regis to Burton Bradstock. In addition, important improvement works are underway on Portland using stone quarried on the island. These works include path upgrades, new bridges, and improved linking routes, which will provide inclusive access to the western side of the island for people of all abilities. Rights of Way improvement plan continues to progress, led primarily by Giles and Russ, but also other people in the council. The document was originally scheduled for consultation, has not yet been completed to the standard that they consider appropriate. As a highly strategic piece of work, it is essential that the ROIP clearly articulates a strong long-term vision and acts as a robust framework for delivering a more integrated, accessible and inclusive rights of way network for those who live in and visit Dorset. We apologise for the delay to the consultation and appreciate your understanding given the simultaneous delivery of frontline services and the need to manage staffing pressures. Please be assured that the ROIP remains a priority and a key focus for the service. Whilst the document itself is still in development, its principles and ethos are already embedded within the team's day-to-day work, continue to guide the delivery of a modern and inclusive network. Okay. Any questions?
How many do you want?
Time is limited.
Well, indeed, yes, yeah. So just a quick note on statistics of our service, specifically to do with public rights of way since the last meeting. The central area had 352 jobs reported. Hopefully, well, I'm going to send out new members in particular some more details, including our area maps, just to give you that information. But our central area, which is basically Sherborne down through to Dorchester, including Weymouth and Portland, a little bit left and right, they had 352 jobs reported since the end of November 2025, but resolved 537. Over in the east of the county, Wimborne, Ferndown, up to Cranbourne, right over to the Hampshire border, they had 169 reported and resolved 157 right-of-way jobs. In the North Dorset area, Gillingham, Shaftesbury, Sturminster, Stallbridge, down to Blandford, we had 280 jobs reported and resolved 495. In the Purbeck area, so effectively the Isle of Purbeck, they had 199 jobs reported, resolved 187. And then over in the west of the county, which is basically Dorchester right over to Somerset and Devon border, they had 322 jobs reported and resolved 401. So
Sorry, 322 reported.
yeah, 401
resolved.
Some old ones.
Old ones.
Yeah.
Sorry, new ones and
Yeah,
sorry.
new ones
They
and
don't-
ones
they
that
go
were
looking
hanging
for
over.
I was going to say that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Basically, stop raining.
Indeed, yeah. So total of those since that last meeting, 1,322 problem reports came into us, and including previously reported ones, we resolved 1,777. So the guys and girls were out there very busy. And I'll include that in the minutes as well as we get to it. Quick bit about the North Dorset Trailway, which we visited back in March. Currently, we have 12 miles worth open all the way from Spetsbury in the south of North Dorset up towards Sturminster Newton, effectively following the River Stour based on the old Somerset and Dorset railway line. And we also have a short section open in Stallbridge. Due to various bits of development and land ownership changes, we've had to make some minor amendments so it doesn't purely follow the Somerset and Dorset railway line along its entire route, but it is essentially a traffic-free multi-user route for walking, cycling and horse riding right across North Dorset. We do obviously have proposals to open sections north of Sturminster Newton towards Stallbridge using Section 106 money to help support this. And also extending south from Spetsbury towards Sturminster Marshall and on. But as yet, well, indeed. As yet, there have been no major developments in the Sturminster Marshall area to enable us to get over the A31. Potentially, the developments that have been put forward in the local plan will help us achieve a serious amount of money to be able to work on this, along with help from National Highways, or whatever they call themselves these days. Another major blocker is a road crossing that we'll need on the A354, just in between Spetsbury and Sturminster Marshall, but we've got a road crossing assessment happening later on this year. Overall, the landowner opposition is pretty high. All the easy bits have been done. And there is the potential for Section 26 rededications, and we do have a test case currently in West Dorset to see whether Dorset Council has the appetite for actually following these things. And obviously, overall, again, we've got a continual process of resurfacing, hedge cutting, and tree felling, which obviously all takes up resources and time for our staff. People counter data, just an example. In 2025, there was an average of 125 people per day using the North Dorset Trailway, which equates to 45,500 people per year. So far, in the almost 4 months of 2026, that people counter has already reached 114 people per day. So chances are it's going to be another bumper year. Around about 45 to 50,000 is average for all of our people counters. So it is a very, very well used resource right across North Dorset.
So do you mind me asking, how do you actually conduct the people count?
With radar sensors, effectively the same ones that they use on the highways network for counting cars and directions of travel. The one that we've currently got up in Sturminster Newton is kind of the newest generation, and it can tell the difference between obviously walkers, but also cyclists and horse riders, and even whether that person has walked that way, gone 200 yards and walked back somehow.
That's seriously impressive.
Yeah.
Do that with facial recognition?
I know, but it is.
We're not allowed.
No, it's not allowed to do facial recognition, but it manages it somehow. Kind of has a limited memory, and can tell if it's the same person that's just doing a short journey or where they are. And you mentioned earlier on, Rebecca, about the North Dorset Trailway group. We are in the process of arranging a meeting between Giles, Russ, myself, and the North Dorset Trailway members, really to reassure the members, which is a charity set up to support the North Dorset Trailway, that Dorset Council still very much has the Trailway as one of its aims to do. Yeah. Any questions on any of those?
Yeah, I hope I'm not going to be too boring and ask you many questions.
That's all right.
What's the policy on ash trees?
Brings that the landowner saying you're. Do you mean specifically on public rights of way or on the trailway?
I think just generally.
Yeah, I mean,
generally, are you protecting the seedlings? Are you trying to select the trees that are going to survive, or are you just going around and saying chop them all down? Or
I don't believe we are saying chop them all down, which is what Wiltshire did a couple of years ago. There is a Dorset Council ash dieback policy on the website. I haven't read it fully. On the sites that I manage, they've all been assessed and kind of percentage rated. We've done the ones that are very obviously dead, and really it's just kind of a bit of a watching game as to which of the ones recover, and if they are recovering, we're not removing them, definitely. And I believe that is really the approach that the highways arboriculture team are taking as well. But where they occur on public rights of way, it is obviously very much the landowner's issue to deal with really and assess their own risk. We can advise, but it's the landowner's responsibility. We're not going out there and felling trees for them.
I'm keeping a really close eye to try and find out which of the seedling or the saplings
Mm.
are showing signs of resistance. And that's a huge opportunity. And if you get the hedge trimmer out and chop them all down, it's rather, it's, you know, it's
Indeed. Yeah, stops that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions about?
I have on the rights of way improvement plan.
Mhm.
I wanted to know how the new rights of way improvement plan would potentially link to the Active Travel England ratings. So the Active Travel England capability ratings for Dorset Council, we're currently, I think, level 1, and whether the rights of way improvement plan will be able to kind of help provide evidence and a method to improve our ratings.
It's not a question I can answer. Maybe ping it to me separately and I'll get you an answer. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the details of that. Sorry to say.
Vicky.
I appreciate the lack of resources. But with the rights of way improvement plan, isn't there statutory times governing when things should happen, like every X number of years? And how many years have we gone over the X?
10 years.
We've gone a number of years over the X. 22 supposed to be delivered, and it was really at that point when we lost the member of staff who was, you know, specifically doing it.
I mean, I do appreciate that money's tight, but shouldn't Dorset Council be putting in some extra resources so that the green space team can actually meet their statutory obligations?
Ideally, yes. And that question has been asked.
How much would need to go in?
It's one of the senior members
An
staff.
FTE or half an FTE or something.
To get it over the line, it needs to be full time, but we've then got the 6 months worth of recruitment of that person.
Unless they divert out of something else,
Well,
and then you lost them from somewhere else.
Indeed. You've got to have the knowledge and the expertise to be able to.
But you don't. You could just bump people up a. I mean, I'd. You know.
Yeah, that question I know has been asked.
So the person you recruited can be the person at the bottom, and you could bump people up a bit and to get to the person that could actually help Giles, that could then be allowed to write it.
We've lost a date now, haven't we, really?
Yes.
Okay, so one thing I can do, which will make me popular, but then I'm often not popular, is ask a question in full council to say, bearing in mind that the road has already missed its date, could we put extra resources in? Just at the moment, we have some SIL money, which we're divvying up, and some of that is going to active travel cycleways in somewhere, not in my ward, and some is going to something else in transport terms. I could ask a question, which if you wanted me to bring it into the public arena, put it that way. I mean, all I'll be told is, you know, well, we're thinking about it, and we are laying off staff. Well, no, we're not laying off staff. We have a turnover of staff anyway. So
I think you're taking the wishes of the forum here to ask that question.
Okay.
So you can ask it with authority of the forum, I think.
Okay, I'll ask on behalf of the forum, seeing I'm the only Dorset councillor here and nobody else knows you exist. And we don't know about rights of way. We don't know about rights of way modifications because they never come to planning meetings that I've ever sat on. And bearing in mind, I sit on 3.
Yeah.
So can we have some wording, and I'll talk about wording later, and I'll get a question done, because we've got one in 2 weeks' time, so I've got enough time to get it sorted.
Phil, Alex, I'm happy to help Alex write a suitable question.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Janet.
One that doesn't just have yes or no as an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, Graham. Specific footpath going out from Stir towards Manston. And there's a bridge with a big hole.
Mhm.
Was that officially cut? Somebody was
Yes.
telling me that, because there's no signage on it to say this is put out of use by Dorset Council.
Okay, I know that we definitely did put some signs up because I did it myself. So
They're gone.
about half a mile away, there should be no bridge on the head signs. And then again at the actual bridge, and then red and white tape highlighting the fact.
Yeah, I don't think it is on our local sort of the Sturminster Newton sort of matters
Right,
Facebook page. There was quite a big post and photos
okay,
and people saying, and landowners saying, go and take another footpath. And it got quite
heated.
heated.
Right,
And then somebody called Lee Cooper, is he? the
yes,
local?
yeah, Lee, yeah.
He was saying that that bridge is definitely going to be replaced before the end
It
of
is,
this year.
yeah. We're within the next couple of months.
Okay, we will move along to item number 7, which is BCP Council Green Space Management Maintenance. Philip, are you there, Pip?
I'm indeed. Can you hear me?
Yep, over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you very much, everybody. So here we are. Yeah, April 2026 BCP Rights of Way update. In the news then. First bit of news is bye-bye to Kirsty Tyre, our Rights of Way officer. She has now left the team. Kirsty found an opportunity to go traveling all kinds of lovely European paths, and who can blame her for taking that opportunity to get out there. That's the thing about hiring people who are very passionate about paths. They can end up doing that. So we are now hiring a new Rights of Way officer. The job listing is now live, so hoping for a good result there. Hopefully going to be holding interviews in June, and should have somebody in place during summer. So other items we're going to be talking about, we got the Chapel Lane Brideway obstruction and the future plan as to what to do with that. We've got the Happy Bottom DMMO registration and a brief item on Upton improvements. Okay, so the question which has come up a few times now. So we're talking about over here, Chapel Lane, got a nice long brideway. Actually, if you look very closely, there's 2 bridleways running in parallel just here. And the issue is that earlier in the year, around about February, I think, the landowner very naughtily installed some vehicular access gates on the on-road bridleway. So that just sort of popped up overnight without us being informed about that. So very, very bad. And then even on the off-road parallel bridleway, you got these bridle gate things, which I really don't like either. Again, no consultation on either of these. So what happened was I did go out and I met with it was Jamie from Eco. Eco is the operation which sort of runs around here. They do a load of sort of waste processing and also energy. You'll see there's tons of solar panels all around here. It's all big one operation on the Dampney estate. So the reason why they put these gates out there saying that they've got some problems with theft and all the rest of it. So obviously they're illegal structures. But what I've said to them is this, that if they open up the gates, then also if they prepared another bridleway in parallel to wherever they want the gates, and then completed just a totally off-road bridleway between here and here where they want the gates, then we could look into extinguishing the on-road bridleway, which is really quite unsafe. So I went back last week. They have they have got the gate open here during the day. I've yet to see whether they're closing it at night. They're not allowed to do that either.
I believe they are, Pip.
They are they? Yeah, they're swines, aren't they? So we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to ring out to them for that. They can't be closing these gates at any time. I did notice, however, that they are at least making good of this idea of creating this new parallel bridleway. They've got these loaders going out and they're laying loads of brick rubble. Hopefully they're going to do a nice, decent dressing on top of that. They're also going to be installing some drainage. So they are working on something out there, but they can't be closing those gates until we have actually legally created that new bridleway and then extinguished the one which is on road. But yeah, we won't be having any of these on this parallel off-road bridleway. We won't be having any of those whatsoever. So that's the idea. That's what we've arranged with the landowner. So I've obviously got to get onto them again about sort of getting these things back open 24 hours a day. Otherwise, we'll go down there and remove them for them.
Thank you.
So that is, yeah, so that's a close up there. So yeah, the additional bridleway will be going around here. You can actually physically get around here at the moment. I wouldn't advise going down there right now because of all the tippers they're using. It's a bit dangerous, but that is what the parallel bridleway will be doing. It'll completely circumvent pretty much all the traffic along there. So it'll be pretty good once it's made up. Okay, so Happy Bottom DMMO. This has been sort of going backwards and forwards for a little while, trying to get it registered. But I think finally we've been able to register this definitive map modification order application. We've got all the evidence that we need. So it looks good. You know, there's loads of evidence there. So we've added it into the queue. Obviously, this is in response to a landowner sort of blocking off this path with all of this barbed wire and all the rest of it. But you know, we've had a look through. We obviously met with Sue at Dorset and just been sort of checking things out there. And what is there to say apart from, you know, there's you know, a really decent amount of evidence there that we could hopefully get this path recorded. In terms of our queue, it will be fourth in line. So we've only got 4 DMMO applications. Don't know how long it's going to take to sort of burn through all of those. Depends on obviously who we get in terms of a new rights of way officer. If it's someone who does have rights of way experience, then it'd be really good to be sort of working on these DMMOs in parallel. In which case, you know, maybe 2-3 years could get it seen to. I think we were discussing initially maybe the idea of getting it done by agreement, but I think the issues with that are to do with the landowners' desire that they would want us to sort of take care of their boundary fencing and all the rest of it, which at least this year we don't really have the budget to do, to start sort of doing all their fencing for them. And I don't know about the idea of sort of spending public money on sorting out their own sort of boundary fences. So I don't think that's going to be happening. Well, definitely not this year. I think maybe we'd probably sort of consider something like a creation order. If the DMMO failed, we could look into maybe sort of doing a creation order. You know, if people really wanted it, then we could pay a bit of compensation to the landowner and just have the path anyway. Wouldn't be against that idea. So I think we'll try out the evidential route first, and then if that fails, then maybe we could do something by a creation. So that is going to be waiting in the wings for now. Oops. And just a little update on Upton. Obviously, Dorset have been doing some fantastic junction improvements in Upton, just in this orange circle here. You can see the purple line here is where our boundary meets. So we have a little bridleway, and to meet our side of the improvements, we had this little bit. So it's just a little bridleway which leads into the Upton improvements. This is how it looked earlier in the year, sort of a little bit muddy, not terrible, but loads of fencing falling all over the place. It needed a bit of TLC, and we've just had this done now, so it's all be made up. got a really nice surface there. All the new fencing, it's all been cut back. It looks splendid. Much better surface all year round. And so that sort of completes the Upton project really. So good bit of work there. Well worth the money. And that's pretty much it actually from us. Is there any questions?
Alex, then Philip.
Sorry, I just the Upton improvements is quite fun in a way, because it is, as being literally on the boundary between Dorset and BCP, there was quite a lot of toing and froing about who did what bits and where and why and how. And what your Philip's just not shown you the Upton side, the Dorset Council side, which is actually very impressive now, even though it's really annoyed motorists. Because we have cut, there was 2 lines of traffic or 2 road lanes. And the problem was it was an accident black spot, because nobody knew, if you're pulling out onto it, you didn't know if they were going to turn right or just keep going or turn. Yeah, you just didn't know. So it seemed to be an awful lot of head-to-heads there. So we removed a vehicle lane and turned it into a cycle path at the side. So there's much more cycling ability there now, and we've accepted that there are no cows, so the cows do not need the bridge or the underpass anymore. But what it has done is, linked with that, we have greatly improved the pavement footpath from Upton Village down to Upton Country Park. It is much wider. You can take a pushchair down there without being pushed into the road, and there is a plan to cut across into Upton Country Park. So it is a much pleasanter experience for people who are doing wheeled things, you know, wheelchairs, pushchairs, that sort of stuff, and now feel much safer there. And I should have thought about it and brought a picture. And that's in my ward, you see, so we've been following. My inbox has been full with angry motorists about road closures for months. So it's quite nice that it's finished.
And that's for equestrian use as well.
Absolutely.
Both, though,
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
imagine. I haven't seen a
It is a
horse
bridle
going down
way, so
there,
yes.
but it is a
It's
bridle way.
way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
from Upton House, it would be now from Hamworthy, you've got the bridleway through Upton Country House. There's a what's it called? Not Pelican, zebra type crossing.
Toucan,
I don't think
Pegasus,
it's a crossing.
the crossing.
And that takes you across to the improved cycle path under the bypass, under the Upton bypass, and then of course it goes straight into the Roman Road at the other side. So you know you can get straight out onto Upton Heath, or the Roman Road to Corfmullen and onwards.
Okay.
Too much.
Paul?
The forum has always been a great enthusiast for trailway routes and their ability to support community as a whole rather than just one subset of it. And on the one hand, there was a lot of good work going on. We have the North Dorset Trailway. We have what Pippi's been doing here. We have the Castleman Trail, such like. And a few years ago, BCC did quite a bit of work opening up the Priest's Way in Purbeck. What I don't have is sort of a big picture, how it all ties together, and particularly the question of linking up the North Dorset Trailway with the Castleman Trail and so on. And so if somehow or other ground stroke pit could for a future meeting pull together a sort of a big picture, because in a connectivity is where you get the real value out of these trailways. And to Alex's point about this work at Upton as well, again, fine, how many members of the community know that this facility is now there and so on. So that if we could at some point have a sort of a big picture report on where these trailways are going, I would value that anyway.
Yeah, so we can get strategic routes.
Just in response to that, I've formed a Dorset Greenways Alliance, bringing together different greenways groups. So we've met with the Dorset, North Dorset Trailway, the Piddle Path, the Chiddock to Bridport Path, and are really looking to, and that's something that's I discuss at our meeting later this week, is about trying to kind of pull and get a sense of where all these routes are going, because I think they're all on Dorset Explorer. And it would be really useful, I agree, to have that comprehensive link. And then going into something like the active travel capability ratings, that's one of the scorings for that, is how integrated are all those routes. And I think it would inform sort of future planning and prioritisation of what goes into developing them.
The railway line from Bay Newton.
Yes.
Right.
This is about surfaces. So the first one, there was brick rubble, and you were saying you hoped that something would be put on top of it. Of course, brick rubble often comes with nails in it, and it's the last thing you want if you're a horse rider, to get a nail up your horse's foot. But I'm sure you guys are pros, so you know about all that sort of thing. But then the second one is still on surfaces. So the surface on the other footpath, you said it was a bit muddy, and then I could see it being improved. But I think for horses, if these are genuine horse footpath, used by horses, then you actually want the softest surface you can get. You can go for a canter on it without wearing out your horse's bone structure in its legs.
But you did confirm that that is clean brick rubble, and there will be an adequate barrier, a membrane put in before it goes 40 mil to dust.
Yeah, we'll make sure of that. Yeah, so we'll inspect the surface, make sure that it's up to spec. There will need to be a membrane there, and then a top dressing.
Okay, thank you. Right, no further questions. Thank you very much indeed, Pip. And we've got a break scheduled from 11:20. Are you there, Claire?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. We make a start then. We are on item number 8 now, which are the coast path landslips. Chris, you wanted a report on the landslips over the last winter and actions being taken to ensure the integrity of the coast path. Graham, you've got a note from Jane Stagg.
Indeed, yeah. So this is from James Stagg, who's our coast path ranger. Obviously, predominantly he's been dealing with the western section from Lyme Regis all the way up to Lulworth, but he's now getting more and more involved in my bit, in the perfect bit from Lulworth around South Haven Point. So he writes, during the winter season 25-26, Dorset coastline has endured one of the wettest winters on record. This has resulted in varying degrees of coastal landslip that has required either immediate action or consistent monitoring of the area due to the proximity of the coastal Charmouth, which is footpath W16/78. 12th of February, Southwest Coast Path in Charmouth had a significant coastal fall, which resulted in the path closure due to safety concerns. Fall resulted in the loss of 300 metres of coastal path and a closure of circa 21 days. From working in collaboration with the Southwest Coast Path Association, the National Trust and their tenant farmers, Dorset Council negotiated a rollback of the area, enabling the reopening of the section of this footpath within 21 days. It was agreed with the National Trust and their tenants that if we funded and provided materials for the temporary fence line, that we could roll back the coast path a further 10 metres from the coastal slip. Once negotiations were finalised, the Dorset Council team cleared a section of coppice, enabling a safe route away from the critical area. Following this cleared section, the tenant farmer installed a new fence line as agreed, providing a safe distance away from the still active area. Subsequently, and due to the activity in the area, Dorset Council will continue to monitor the location with the potential contingency plans in place. Next one, St Gabriel's Cottage, Golden Cap. Following this activity and from a recent site visit, it was evident that this area heading east on the coastline is eroding also. These areas, including St Gabriel's Cottage, heading towards Golden Cap and Golden Cap itself. While some of these slips do not immediately affect the coastal path, one section that has been discussed with clear plans and clear a section of scrub outside of bird nesting season to enable the rollback of open access land owned by the National Trust. However, it was agreed that the National Trust and Dorset Council will continue to monitor the area. Third one is at Ferry Bridge in Weymouth. Consistent land movement. This area is regularly monitored by Dorset Council and the Freshwater Holiday Park. More recently, additional infrastructure has been installed to improve accessibility and further mitigation measures have been put in place. Clavell Tower. On the 9th of April this year, we received reports that a section of the coast path has been compromised east of Clavell Tower, resulting in the narrowing of the path.
Yeah.
While plans have been discussed in potentially moving the fence line back to improve accessibility, the lack of access to improve maintenance grants has delayed any further developments. Basically, there's no more money from Natural England to help, so we have to fund it from our own pots. Unfortunately, the landowner is not presently able to keep stock in this field until the new field boundary is agreed and funded. South Gwyll. From a survey conducted in the summer of 2025, it was noted that a section of the coast path was compromised near South Gwyll. Following this, and as we've entered the autumn-winter season, sections of the coast path were lost to landslips. However, through collaboration with the South West Coast Path, funding and good working relationship with the landowner, we were able to negotiate a section of rollback here with new fencing. This also enabled the landowners to keep stock in their fields. And the landowner also acknowledges that the rate of erosion is speeding up and will be moving his fence further back. Specifically to do with funding issues and coast path erosion. Most recently, reports from Natural England and the South West Coast Path Association say that there is no funding available as part of their maintenance grants. This is a major concern considering how much ecotourism the South West Coast Path generates and how quickly Dorset is losing its coastline. The lack of funding will also be detrimental in supporting the standards of the National Trail and maintaining public access. It is also well known that local authorities are unable to fund projects of this nature due to our financial constraints. So there's obviously lots of erosion going on. We're doing what we can to mitigate it and keep the farmers happy and the footpaths open. I'll send this around with the minutes as well. On the King Charles III English Coast Path, one positive piece of news is that the KC3 ECP establishment has been extended into the new financial year for 26-27 for Lyme Regis Hive Beach. Surveys have been carried out and funding has already been applied for to Natural England. The goal for establishing the project is to future-proof the South West Coast Path as well as improve accessibility for all. So just to go back one step, those sections that have already been worked on and qualified as ECP can't get any further funding if they then disappear into the sea. That then has to come from our own budgets. Improvement works will include replacement bridges, surfacing, gates, and generally creating a more user-friendly route around the West Bay. Once funding is improved, work is expected to start immediately on various sections. As part of the establishment project, Dorset Council are presently in negotiations with Natural England to improve the coast path section between Kimmeridge and Lulworth Cove. a lot of which is obviously through the ranges. Improvement plans include coastal rollbacks, bridge replacements, step improvements and gate installations. However, Dorset Council are awaiting confirmation from Natural England that the establishment grant can be agreed, so we can then apply. Hopefully that made sense. I might just abbreviate it somewhat, and I didn't have a chance to read it before we sent that through, but I'll send that through to you.
Thank you. Right.
I've got 1 point.
1 point.
My family helped to build the defences at West Bay, and one of the design features in the early design was to make sure that the pier, which was then built out of stone, was not didn't break through the Chesil beach and stop the flow of stone up and down the beach. Now, over the following 100 and something years, the scientists have changed their minds as to which way the stone goes up and down the beach. But the fact of the matter is that the stones that used to go, the pebbles used to go out round Golden Cap and onto the beach beyond, going off towards Charmouth, and all that has been denuded. Meanwhile, the piers have been, it's all been hardened, so that the flow of pebbles has been interrupted, and the erosion has accelerated, and the footpaths are now falling into the sea with great regularity. Now, there is this scientific dispute, so I don't know whether we can kick off some form of reassessment by proper geologists, because it's the wrong type of geologists who've been steering the argument.
Have you talked, I mean, this is you, or is this being raised at the Harbours Committee for West
No,
Bay?
this is
things
me
like that?
raising it.
Okay.
Yeah, having had discussions with some of these influential scientists over
Have
the
you
last
had
30
discussions
years.
with their county officers who are
No,
doing it?
no.
Perhaps
So-
we need to get together and
Yeah.
steer somebody.
There are various
Yeah.
departments within
Yeah.
the council that deal with erosion and harbours and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we can certainly point.
We
in
have
that
harbour
direction.
committees who know about this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and we
Allegedly.
keep throwing them money.
Allegedly.
We keep throwing them money, so it would be nice to know that it's going in the right, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
I know, I was just in a similar vein, I was just wondering whether Natural England are doing any research into whether natural processes can slow this down. So saying having a hedgerow 100 yards back from the edge of the coast and slowing the water down using that, or a woodland fringe or something that can act, because we know that obviously part of it is wave action and part of it is water from the coming down in ever increasing amounts from the top. And this really is, I mean, it's going to outgallop any money that any local authority can throw at it. And obviously Natural England has never had much money and it's run out of its grant for this. So, I mean, somebody ought to be looking at something else.
I was going to say kelp forest.
Pardon? Yeah,
Kelp forest.
I know, yeah,
To
also,
slow, you know, that sort of aquatic plant growth. We have the guys down in Weymouth at whatever it's called, who research things and are beginning to farm seaweed of some sort.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've got any
yeah, the main,
useful input.
you'd think that Natural England should be looking at lots of different data, both on at the sea level and at the land level, to see.
I know a
whether-
few years ago they produced quite a hefty document about climate change and rights of way in particular, and how.
So did they ever look at the coast with that?
I didn't read that chapter.
Does anyone go on the Coastal Access Forum? The Coastal Forum, rather. No, okay.
Maybe,
There is a coast forum that meets quite regularly.
is it cross county? Because I know Devon has got issues.
I can ask somebody on the coast forum what information they've had and have they raised this.
It's definitely cross county.
I believe it's the Dorset Coast Forum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be on it many years ago, but haven't. No, not now. But I can
mean,
ask
it's
if
the-
they've had any information or meeting or.
Yeah, I mean, you think that somebody would be doing some research because farmers are watching their land disappear as well, and that must be totally and utterly devastating for them.
Though it is showing us more fossils as it goes.
But yes, it does show more fossils as it goes.
Increased tourism.
Yes,
Yeah.
depending on the geology, I suppose, but yeah,
You know, as I can ask,
yes.
because I can find, well, like Graham, you know, there are these departments who often never talk to anybody else.
Yep.
So I can stir it up a bit, but
I can-
no promises.
Yeah, I'll ask my contacts in
Yeah.
Natural England.
Janet
Thank
wants
you.
to come
Yes.
here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to, when if Graham forwards the report he's just read to us all, I will forward it to the Ramblers National Lead on the Coast Path. And she's in regular contact with Natural England. So I'll get it raised from that direction as well.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we move on now to item number 10, which is Hodmore, the inaccessible common land. Janet, this was something that you raised.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Chairman.
Oh, sorry, a minute. Paul wanted to come in.
So just before we move on the PCP, I'm not aware of us having got decision yet from the Secretary of State on the routing around Abbotsbury. And can we find out whether that is still the case? Because I certainly haven't heard anything. And that has been held up for years now following the public inquiry. And applying Sod's law, that is about the only stretch of the ECP where the routing as defined by Natural England is a significant improvement on the SWCP line. So to just know where we stand on that will be helpful.
Find out.
So item 10, Hodmore, Janet.
Yeah, sorry, just to go back to the KC3 ECP. To the best of my knowledge, the last time I asked about this, it was still sitting on the Secretary of State's desk. So it hasn't been formally approved yet, as far as I know. Yeah, sorry, going on to item 10, Hodmore. Yeah, I did do a little note about this, which Graham has circulated, and it was just something that was drawn to my attention after our site visit to the North Dorset Trailway, that there is this block of common land, which, to all intents and purposes, it adjoins the trailway immediately, but it's very, very difficult to access. And I just wondered, given its proximity to the trailway and to the River Stour, if there was anything that could be done to improve it. But then I see that Nikki has, since I did my little note about it, Nikki has also been pursuing it when wearing her Open Spaces Society hat. So really, it was just a question for Graham about whether anything could be done to improve access to access land in this particular case.
So I spoke to the people that are grazing it, which is the Hinton St Mary estate. Dating back many years, they had an agreement. They were aware of the Dorset Council, not quite ownership, but management of this piece of land. But they don't have any records of who they spoke to in Dorset Council to get the approval to graze it. So they'd always just kind of assumed that they had kind of carte blanche, but not ownership to
to do
Yeah,
what they
can
want
you
to do.
explain to people that it's
Yes.
a piece of registered common land and it has no owner?
Yeah,
And so, and there's lots of pieces like this all over the
There is.
country.
and no commoners anymore.
There's no commoners either. And except that Dorset Council are the commoners, they
Yeah,
somehow or other have ended up, and I
I
don't,
think it's just one of those things, they inherit everything else.
yeah,
well, however it happened, they have rights to graze cattle on the site,
yeah.
but nobody else has any rights, and that's on the Commons Register, the 1965 Commons
Yeah.
Register. And also they have obligations under Section 9 of is it the 64 Act? Anyway, they're to protect the land from encroachment and to stop it being misused. So as basically, so although they don't own it, they're the protector of the land. And those things tend to be lost in history.
Indeed, and how this agreement, whether it was just verbal, or whether there's anything written down between Dorset County Council as was and the Henderson Area Estate, nobody really knows. But at the moment, the area has been quite recently fenced, and it's being grazed by sheep, which, as you say, is not allowed in the book, but at least it's being grazed and it's not being scrubbed over. The estate assure me that they never actually lock the gates, and the limited bit of research that I've been able to do is that with these islands, if there is no right of way to it, you can cross between where there is a right of way to a piece of common to access it. So
When I
as long as
first
you're
went to
not
see it,
destroying
I
anything.
climbed over the gate, and I don't think I'd climb over gates when
They're locked. Yeah,
they're unlocked.
they assured me it's never been locked. And they also assured me, I haven't had the opportunity to check that, there is a style to get over the fencing there somewhere, which the chap uses who feeds pheasants down there for shoot on the Jason. So yeah, there's still I've still got to do a lot of work on what Dorset Council's responsibility towards common land is. Which is obviously very involved. I mean, we've got another one up in Shaftesbury called Breach Common, where I've got a number of issues dating back many years to try and resolve.
Well, we can have a long conversation, which Janet could be part of if you like.
Yeah, but it's then getting hold of somebody in Dorset Council who wants to do it, because I don't have time to deal with common land as well.
It's a very specialist
Absolutely,
area of expertise, and particularly from a legal perspective.
Absolutely, and that's where we're lucky to have Nikki, because that used to be a job.
Are you a lawyer?
Absolutely, no.
I was Natural England's lead on common land.
Oh, blimey.
But that doesn't make me a lawyer.
Looking
And I'm also
got a
quite
national
rusty,
authority.
because my opportunity to actually use any of my expertise is rather rarefied in Dorset.
So, but identifying somebody in Dorset Council who's going to say, okay, I should be dealing with common, whether this is as part of the farm estate.
I was going to say farm estate, well, I can take it up and do some inquiries, bearing in mind we can't hang on to a land agent for more than 10 minutes.
Of course,
and anything to do with legal takes forever.
It's Vanessa Penny's team who hold the 1965
register.
So
they're not going to be rushing to see they've got so many other things on.
What about parish council?
Not really. No, it was the parish council that raised this issue with us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But in terms of NASA's team, obviously they're not. They yes, they maintain the register, but that's it. They're not going to be going out there to say sorry, but you can't graze this piece of land with sheep.
I mean, putting it down to what harm is being caused, because we have to take, with a lot of planning infringements, we have to take a harm-based attitude. What is the harm being caused? How bad is it? Will it get worse, or is it stable?
I think there's several issues. One is that it's been fenced. and you shouldn't fence common land
Yeah.
Without a legal
Without
process
having-
being
yeah.
followed.
without a legal
So that-
process. And in order to be able to get that legal say-so, you have to go through effectively an application process to PINS, which you don't have to pay for in this particular case, or you didn't have to. But you have to prove that that fencing is required to improve the conservation value of the land, or to improve the common. Now, that's a very good question, and I'm not an ecologist. The original commoning rights are by cattle, which would presumably be at a low intensity, and that would create a very different sward to the sward that's created by a lot of sheep.
And are there a lot of sheep?
There were a lot of sheep when I walked on it.
So are you saying that there's a registered right to only graze cattle on that common land?
Yes, that's exactly
That's
right.
the
What
assumption.
about the Wildlife Trust?
How, the assumption, or
No, that's what's written in the land registry, which is held by Vanessa Penny's team. Sorry, you said,
What about a discussion with the Wildlife Trust, because they're interested in nature? They can do an appeal if they were interested enough.
yeah, but the fencing isn't necessarily about nature, that's about access. So common land it's an amalgam. If one looks at something, the DEFRA consents policy, it's an amalgam of landscape, biodiversity and access, all of which have equal input or equal value. And so common land, anything which has a fence impedes access, and common land is seen to be open without fencing. And so if one puts a new fence in, you've got to have a good reason to do it. And that reason has got to be for the benefit of the common, not the benefit of the landowner, but the benefit of the common. And in this case, there isn't a landowner to benefit. And so it does get tricky. And so, yeah, so it is very complicated.
Very.
And there's more work to be done. But on this particular instance, people can walk there should they wish.
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham.
Nobody would have a clue that they could, and I certainly.
No, you wouldn't have a clue that you could.
No,
It
well,
just
in that
looks like
case,
it's
I
one
shall
field,
feel
isn't it?
happy to go and climb all over his fences and try and get across the links.
Access the river.
What is an
What is
access?
the parish, which is the parish council? Shillingstone. Okay.
Are there equestrian rights on that? Take
No.
down?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
But
No, I
yeah,
think
one of
it's
the
pro-
other-
pro rights.
One of the other elements of common land, to declare somewhere a common, you have to, well, it's one of the things you do, is you prove local access that it's been used.
I think that's town and village greens.
Yeah.
Can't, which is different legislation. The only way of it becoming a common is, I mean, we're into a different discussion, but it has to be registered under the 65 Act at the moment. There was the 2006 Act, Part 1, allowed for land that, for various reasons, didn't get onto the 65 Act registry, but it hasn't been rolled out over all of the country. And Dorset is one of the areas it wasn't rolled out into. And the idea was that it would be rolled out in a sequential fashion, but somehow austerity hit and the rollout halted at that point and has never recommenced. And so whether the 2006 Act Part 1 ever is recommenced, I don't know. But other than that, so I think there are ways of can create common land, But again, that is very complicated. And again, you probably need to find yourself some commoners to do it. Which
I'm
is-
just thinking, you know, the whichever the parish council is, do they have any personal records of it having been used as other things, or any comments from them, or they just wash their hands of the whole thing?
Well, once it goes onto the 65 Act, I mean, you can modify it. There are ways of modifying it.
I was just thinking of local knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. You could modify it.
I
under a
don't
different
think they
bit of
even
that
knew it
act.
was there. to
Well,
be honest with you,
exactly. Yeah. They probably don't know it's there.
Till it was pointed out.
These commoner rights are usually on the tithe map as well. Some of them are anyway.
Yeah, rights of common are normally associated with a property, as in the New Forest, or the people there who have been living in the same house since William the Conqueror left. And so they have rights of common going through the property, which is why Dorset Council is unusual. But yes.
I'll keep you posted on
Bit of
further
investigation.
developments. Yeah.
Okay. Item number 11, member feedback from associated groups and meetings. So if you want to give a brief report on to various things. Janet, Dorset National Landscape.
Right, well, this really will be brief. It hasn't met since we last met, so I haven't got anything to report, other than it will be meeting later this month, I think. So nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cranbourne Chase National Landscape.
I did go to the annual forum and we did lots of workshops, and I think they're doing a jolly good job on access, actually.
They've got little
Walking maps.
walking maps that are both circular routes, also, I think there are
And
about,
different grades.
yeah, there are about 18 of them.
Oh,
Um,
at least,
And
at least.
they're absolutely brilliant, incredibly well done,
Yeah,
and
and
really
then,
easy to use.
and they're online as well.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go and pick yourself a
Mhm.
paper copy from an office anywhere. You could,
Though they are nicely sort of jeans pocket sized.
they're lovely.
You know.
They are lovely.
Mhm.
I mean, I really think that they do a good job on access. Or it was under heritage, was it heritage lottery funding? One of the
Chalk and
lottery
Chase.
Yeah, the chalk and chase. And so they had money, they had a person who did it, and it also left them with a lot of volunteers as well. They raised, they had money that enabled them to use a lot of volunteers doing various things, and they still have a lot of those volunteers. So hopefully they will work on their rights of way.
Anything for equestrian access?
Oh, now that's a good question. Then I would need to, I'm sure that some of those routes would be equestrian as well.
They
And there's quite a lot of bridle routes over Cranbourne Chase. I mean, we cycle, so if we cycle it, then you can ride it. So yes,
Okay,
yeah.
if we get some parity maps.
Mm.
Local Nature Partnership, LNP unable to accept.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I mean, in short, we thought that there was a space, and it turned out there wasn't a space. There wasn't a space at all.
Okay.
It was a very nice refusal.
Mm. All right. Well, we've caught up. Ratification of responses made since the last meeting. LAF was consulted about the review of the exclusion of access rights at Hamworthy Fuel Depot, but the consensus was the situation had not changed since the last review, so no response was made. Felling license consultation for Armswell Farm Woodland.
Yes, Chairman, that was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we regularly get these consultations on felling licenses, and we've more or less developed a standard reply, which sort of picks out whether there are any rights of way or access land involved, and makes just a reminder about the need to be wary of those, and to seek for the Forestry Commission to seek the relevant permissions should they need to, which they probably know anyway, but it doesn't do any harm to make our voice heard.
Okay. So we move on to item number 13. Dorset Council Initiative Dorset Net Zero Living Programme.
We spoke about this when we set the agenda.
Yeah.
And we wanted it on there to see if anybody else knew anything about it, whether it had an access element, and whether you wanted to be part of this group as well.
I think Janet wants to come in here.
Yeah, I did have a look using the link that you've got on the agenda there, and I really could not see any way that we could worm our way into saying anything about
Neither
it.
could I.
So I think that's something that since we've got more than enough things to worry about, I think that's one we can probably leave out.
Yeah, okay. So,
unless anybody else on the forum did look and thought there was something we could say, but I honestly couldn't see anything that was really relevant to our remit.
we'll leave that one well alone. So item 14, LAF work plan. Paul, you'd suggested that the LAF prepare a work plan to help us become proactive rather than, for example, standard flag response, read, do Highways England 7.
I'd added in after the Farigi, just some ideas about what could be in the work plan. I mean, Paul, do you have any other specific things that you want to do?
Secretary of State's guidance tells us that we should be proactive in developing our work plan rather than simply reacting. And years ago, we used to have a process where every 2 or 3 years, people were invited to come along to our meetings with pet hobby horses that they would like to try selling collectively, so that we could do a ranking type exercise and develop a work program out of that. But it's a while since we've been through that process. Now, I can think of quite a number of things that are looming above us, but I think it probably would be best if we kick this one onto the next agenda, so people have time to come along equipped with their own hobby horses. Yeah. There are 1 or 2 things that we will be unfortunately will be reacting to. The long-awaited review of open access designations is one of them. That should have happened several years ago, but Natural England keep finding ways of kicking it off downstream. But if and when that process does finally happen, we will be a statutory consultee on it. So we might like to start thinking about, well, what do we want to put into it, as much as how do we react? And therefore, if somebody could have a word with Natural England and find out, is that ever going to come live again? I mean, it's something that should have happened several years ago.
Yeah.
Coffee and lunch and things with Pippa Langford, who some people might know, and and I ask the question every time, and depending which year it is, hope goes up and it goes down. I mean, it's not just Natural England, it's DEFRA really, who are the who basically hold the purse strings, you know, and if they don't give enough money to Natural England to put enough resources into doing it, it gets moved backwards again. And I mean, I know that there's recently been a redundancy process, and a lot of the people who were the experts in this have recently gone out to grass.
I think this is one where the forum could, officially ask the question rather than just doing it.
Yes, we should be asking the question, because
Yeah.
it actually affects Dorset quite a lot because of the downland.
And somewhere back in about 2015, I think it was, we actually had an approach from Natural England saying we are about to start work on the open access review and we look forward to working with you on it, which then got parked. And I think some sort of statutory instrument was put through which actually deferred the statutory timescales for this work. But the basic excuse, for want of a better phrase, that we were given was that the resources weren't available to do the ECP project and the open access review. And so as we are now being assured that the ECP is more or less complete, doesn't this mean that they should be taking up schedules, the open access review?
The year that you're looking for, Paul, is 2010, because I hope to become the project manager.
Yeah.
and I remember getting the phone call in 2010, but it didn't happen. And you're quite right. DEFRA spent a long time working out how they could push it down the road because the resources just weren't there. And indeed, it was hoped that when the ECP project came to an end, there would be people available to then pick up the Crow access work. And there has been lots of discussions in between those years about what the remit would be and how it would look like. But every time, I think, then there also becomes another problem.
It's particularly annoying because one of the great things that the forum did a few years ago was this excellent study on open access islands that Chris and Jim DeBurton put through, which was a first-class piece of work, and which has achieved absolutely nothing because it's just got kicked off into the long grass, waiting for the open access review to complete. So, and I think the forum to formally ask, naturally, where do we stand on this would be an enabler to a sensible work plan.
Yeah. Janet, you want to come in?
Well, I was just going to suggest that Nikki and I get together, because Nikki has got a lot of expertise in this, and compose a letter for us to send to the Secretary of State asking these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it without pressure, then more resources won't be made available. And whether it'll do any good, we can only hope that it will. But unless we do the pressuring, and if
absolutely
there's forums do the pressuring as well, then that's got to sort of help, because it is long overdue. And when you think that the last time it was done was the first time round, and with all the best will in the world, it was, you can't ever get everything right on the first time round. And so the review was an incredibly important thing to take place.
Philip, if you want to come in.
Yeah, so my memory of the Crow land criteria? Was it mountain, moorland, down or heath?
Yeah, Mountain Moor, Heath or Down.
Yeah, and semi-improved grassland was out rather than in, if I remember rightly. Now, the effort, the Natural England effort at the moment is very much on landscape recovery, as far as I can see, which is a fantastic land manager, landscape scale, nature thing, which involves a lot of sort of almost reversion back to non-semi-improved grassland. So were such a review to happen, you might end up with quite a lot of extra stuff coming in and extra land coming in unless there were exemptions. What I'm really trying to say is that the landscape has changed, you know, the regulatory landscape has changed, and maybe we would have a role to say, let's go with the flow and try and push for more access on landscape recovery schemes. You know, that,
Yeah,
something like that is what I'm trying to say.
yes, I mean, I think, I mean, Downland takes about 50 years to recreate. So, maybe not during my time on the laugh, but yeah, I mean, I see your point. But
Shall I re-find the documents that Chris and Jim did previous and circulate
Yeah.
those, just so you've got a bit more of a flavour of what was done previously?
yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I mean, because that
Hopefully for
doesn't
that.
depend on Natural
Chances.
England doing anything at all.
My understanding is, I've just quickly checked through one of the access related blogs that we'd had, was that Natural England are required to review the open access mapping by 31st of December 2030. That's what the current requirement is.
Yeah.
As to when that's going to happen, bearing
It's a
in mind
long
it's
time.
not incorporated within their 5-year strategy 25 to 30.
I mean, it started off, as you know, as a decadal review.
Yeah.
And so I think
But-
that the last launch I went to was about 2005.
But the interesting
So-
thing is that they did, I know that they did a cost and resource mapping exercise and how much it was going to cost both in time and money and resource. And it was significant, incredibly significant.
And
Which may well
depending
be,
on what you do
Yes.
with it as well. I mean, I know that there's been talks of getting the registered common land updated, which it's ludicrous at the moment. So whatever exchanges of common land have taken place since 2005, and that has been numerous, including large areas around the M25, which doesn't affect us, but it's absolutely enormous, then it's not shown on the maps. So you see where the common land was, but you can't see where the common land now is. And there is talks of updating that. But as you say,
Yeah. The one
but
I,
I don't see, I think we should try and write a letter anyway.
So what about the other suggestions that I put on there? Just about, Janet mentioned earlier on about standard response for felling applications, but we're getting a lot more requests from WAG, Farming and Wildlife Advisory, for tree planting schemes. So it'd be useful to get your heads together and just think, what is a good response to all of these? Obviously, they're all slightly individualised, depending on the context, but it'd be useful to have your input into that for our staff to then respond, because it's not a statutory response required like the felling licenses one is. To look again at the severed routes information,
yes,
and you know, redo a whole response for Highways England. Hampshire County Council have got infrastructure design guidance for landowners, parish councils, other organisations, National Trust, RSPB, for example. So it'd be good to have a Dorset Council version of those, which is something that we don't necessarily have opportunity to do at the moment. But if you can be looking at that kind of thing, that'd be great. And also additions or amendments to our own web pages, just to have a full review and sense check on those would be very useful. Plus a lot more railway connectivity, you know, if, you know, you
Railway
think about that, if you know the group can be working on that instead of us, you know, that frees us up to do other things, you know.
And the obvious one is the ROIC, to have an input on that.
Indeed, and
Concrete sets on it.
absolutely, it certainly will be, no doubt about that. It's just getting to that stage where it's in a in an order where you can.
Use AI.
They are.
Good.
Yeah, but they don't tell you what they found.
Okay. Janet, do you want to come back in?
Sorry, yeah. We can't write a work plan here in 20
No.
minutes.
No.
So can we make a plan for how we take this forward? Can I suggest that, well, we everybody on the forum is invited to put forward their suggestions for things to go into the work plan. And I can find, I'm sure I've got on my computer the last work plan that we worked on, and I'll put together something, but we shouldn't wait until the next forum in July, whenever it is, before doing some work on this. I'm happy to try and put something together, but I need input from everybody. So if I could invite, well, I'll send a note round after the meeting. If I can invite people to send their ideas for the work plan to me, and then I will put them together in some kind of a paper, which I'll circulate between meetings, because we don't get anything done if we wait 3 or 4 months for the next meeting before we do anything. We need to be working outside of the meeting to get things done. So I'm happy to put something together with input from everybody else. So I'll send an email around to everybody after the meeting. Possibly, I'm not at home at the moment, which is why I couldn't join you in person. Next week, when I'm back at home, I will send a note round and we'll try and get cracking on this, if you're happy for me to take the lead on it.
Yes, please. Thank you, Janet. It's very kind of you to offer. Thank you. Right. Does anybody have any other business?
Just one very quick point
Yes.
to clarify. The Dorset Initiative for Net Zero Living, my predecessor was on the LEP, and obviously the local enterprise partnership has been completely dissolved, and it's been incorporated into, or two parts have been incorporated into Dorset Council, and one part, the Digital Skills Hub, has been taken over by BCP. From what I understand, having messaged him about it, he's just, as far as he's aware, the entire programme is archived. But it may well be a case of speaking to Dorset Council about whether or not he's going to be taken aboard at all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for finding that out.
On the open access islands issue, Graham, if you can dig out some of the earlier paperwork, that will be helpful. But I also have a recollection some years back of spotting a bit in PIP's new rights of way improvement plan, which referred to Natural England and highways authorities between them having powers to create permissive routes to give access to these island sites. And I copied this to Tara. Said, oh, well spotted, Paul. But nothing has ever really come out of it. I think she got as far as saying she wasn't aware of this ever actually having happened in Dorset Council.
No.
But if if you could research a little bit on what that power is or isn't, that will be helpful.
I can send you the bits of the act
That'd be great, yeah.
if you'd like me to. Yeah, so there are various powers that that local authorities have, the relevant authorities have regarding open access land. And that is one of them, in order to provide access to land that's not accessible.
And it's then identifying who's
But-
actually going to follow that through and make these.
Yes, and that's funding again. And so it's obviously got to be a good reason to do it and worth it.
On AOB.
Yeah, on AOB.
Yeah, I haven't seen in this group any discussion of the missing link on the Chiddock to Bridport path, bridle path or link or trail or whatever you want to call it. And are we, I did talk to the officer in the council whose name I've instantly forgotten. Stuart Semple. What's needed really is, I think it's a section 26 order for a dedication of the missing link rather than compulsory purchase. So we've got a very unwilling landowner. Now, he was saying, could we get political support for this? We've got one politician in the room.
Which ward does it come into?
This is
Who are you talking to?
Bridport and Symonsbury ward. So I know.
We've got a by-election.
Yes, there's a by-election, yes. What party are you?
Me, I'm a Liberal.
Oh, well, so am I. So that's easy.
So
are they.
So you've got two Bridport ward councillors. I'm not sure whether they divvy it up into East, West, and God knows what else. Then you've got.
I'm thinking of support
Yes.
from this group.
I was going to say, but if you've got the ward councillors who can push, it helps. I'm not anywhere near Bridport. Do you want me to ask them if they're involved?
I think, okay, well, maybe.
Informally ask them
Yeah.
what's going on with this. Usually the person to talk to about in councillors about footpaths and bridleways and such like is Roland Tarr.
Oh, yeah, of course it is.
He's the man who seems to know everybody.
He is involved, but he hasn't managed to unlock the landowner.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll talk to Roland.
Talk to Roland.
Yeah. And then maybe bring it back here and say, can the Access Forum say this is a good idea?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes it's whoever who shouts loudest. That's what it is.
Right. Well,
Can I was just going to,
please.
can I just, I'm sure you're all aware of it, but I just reinforce that we have secured most of Upton Heath for another, possibly permanently. There's a section of Upton Heath which was owned by Rothschild Company, not the Rothschilds, but another one. And they had Dorset Wildlife Trust, 110 acres, with bridle paths going across it and all the rest of it. And Dorset Wildlife Trust had it on a 20-year lease, but the lease has expired. And so the owners decided to try and sell it at auction, which they could do, obviously, because they own it. It is open access, is part of the Greater Heath project and all that business. But they were selling it with an existing planning permission for mineral extraction, which there would be sand or gravel, which predates things like SSSIs and all that. It's going back some time. So it was still legal planning permission. So there was a big hoo-ha, can't sell it. There was a big public publicity appeal, which, you know, we went and delivered thousands of these damn things to try and summon up public interest. because people don't tend to know what's happening on their own doorstep. And Dorset Wildlife Trust did a public appeal because they needed to show that there was public backing for spending money on this. So the public appeal got to 110,000 in 2-3 weeks, barely that. The auction was scheduled for tomorrow, but because they raised 110,000, then BCP Council chipped in, Dorset Council chipped in 200k, and they put in a bid and secured the purchase before it went to auction.
Oh, brilliant.
But I just think that one ought to be aware that good things happen. Sometimes it's not all doom and despondency. That's something else. So
going to be managed by the Wildlife Trust.
and it's basically given to the Wildlife Trust. They will be managing it from now on. They were already managing it on their lease. And actually, they'd done some quite good work because some of it is a bit too overgrown. You wouldn't want to take a horse through some of the gorse bushes. But the lower part of Upton Heath, because it's a hill, they have actually sort of re-wetted quite a lot of it because obviously wet peat holds more carbon than dry peat. And so there's some quite good ponds, such like down there, with lots of, what are they called? Creepy crawly jobs. Reptiles and amphibians. So it is now definitely back open. It was an interesting one because although technically somebody could buy it and have right to extract minerals, we own the access. So they would have had to negotiate with Dorset Council to make an access towards the A35, or alternatively, they would have had to negotiate with BCP to make an access into their part of the land. And even more ironically, there is a perfectly good lorry quality bridge over Upton bypass, over the 35, which was built by the original owners way back. But we've built houses all over the top of the land it goes through. So you could take a lorry over the bridge, but then you're driving through people's houses. So it's not, so it's one of those interesting things where history is built up.
And will that be open access?
It is now.
It is, yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
It is now. And it will now remain so.
So,
Excellent.
and then I was told that there were 5 owners at one point. So there's just the 3 now, Dorset Wildlife Trust, BCP and Dorset Council, but no other owners now.
I don't think so. They were hoping that Natural England would help, but they jumped the gun. You know, they just got on with it. There may be others, I don't know. RSPB were interested, whether they put any money in the end, I don't know. And they're not telling us the final figure, but it's in the region of 500,000.
It's an incredibly large piece of heath, isn't it? So,
Well, it's,
you know,
yes, it's
compared with what all the other fragments
it's
in East
yes.
Dorset.
And of course, it is part of that greater Heath project. You know, that linking down into the Wareham Heath and everything else. This is a major part of green lung of BCP and Dorset and the rest of it. And yeah, I walk down there occasionally, not every week, but quite often. So I just thought you needed a bit of good news.
Good.
Good news to finish up with. Excellent. Okay, so the next meeting will be on Tuesday, the 21st of July, till 1. And just remains me to thank everybody very much for turning up and being part of a very lively discussion. Thank you. So I'll close the meeting at 12:54. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Janet. Bye-bye.
Have to escape.
I had